So it does indeed look like we have some PlayStation 5 Pro news, and this is kind of fallen in line with what we've seen previously, and it definitely makes sense from a standpoint of where Sony is trying to do things differently than what they've done before. And again, if you look at the differences between like the PS4 Pro and the PS5 Pro, I think the biggest difference is a year later launch, probably going to be a much bigger situation and kind of a difference than what we've seen previously. And I think that's going to be for the better for sure, because when you look at how Microsoft has been able to handle the competition, they haven't. So imagine, when Sony kind of half-assed it, we realistically kind of were in a situation where we didn't get any kind of competition regardless. So yeah, it is interesting to see this, and I want to get into it, but it should be a fun video in my opinion anyway. What's up everybody, I'm Crab Gamer, this is Crab Gamer Reviews, back with another video. And you know what, honestly, this is something that maybe we should have all seen coming, but I kind of said something like this previously, and it ended up being working out true for me. So a lot of people that say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, I think that clearly Sony had a plan, and it really kind of makes sense for them to kind of do this the way that they have done it. And I can't wait to kind of get further into this. But again, PlayStation presents Death Stranding 2 on the Beach special set for TGS 2024. This is likely going to be a game that really kind of showcases itself and shines on the PS5 Pro, which makes a lot of sense. Publisher Sony Interactive Entertainment and developer Kojima Productions will host a special stage event for Death Stranding 2 on the Beach at Tokyo Game Show on September 29th. The company has announced that the panel will feature discussions and the latest development update on Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, which is due out for PlayStation 5 sometime in 2025. Kojima Productions will host a panel discussion on Death Stranding 2 on the Beach for PlayStation 5. Visionary game creator Hideo Kojima, singer-songwriter and official supporter of Tokyo Game Show, also will be joined by a number of guests, including Nicholas Winding, to discuss the upcoming title. Attendees will be given a front row seat to the latest update in the development of Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. So yeah, really cool to kind of see that come about. And like I said, a lot of people are kind of talking about what we're going to see from the PlayStation 5 Pro, and it was always kind of clear to me that they were waiting for the right moment to get this thing going, and now I think it really appears to be the right moment. I just think in general, people, fans, gamers are kind of ready for the next big thing and the next piece of hardware. I used to be of the kind of thought process that it doesn't really matter, we don't really need all of those updates and stuff like that. I think that now 4 years in, it does feel kind of stale, but also I can understand if people don't feel that way. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, let's just be real, we haven't gotten that real amazing piece of game that made this go, oh hey, this is just a fantastic generation. I don't think we've had that. When I think back to, I can think back to any real piece of generational bit, like, okay, when you went from the NES to the Super Nintendo and you played Super Mario World right out of the box, you knew, hey, this was fantastic. And when you played, when you went from Super Mario World to Super Mario 64, there was that leap. And same thing when you went from like the Saturn to the Dreamcast, you saw a big leap. When you went from the PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, and certainly PS2 to PS3 and Xbox to Xbox 360, there was such a huge leap there that it just made a lot of sense to kind of be impressed by that. So yeah, this is the thing that a lot of us are really talking about, and things like that when it comes to this as well with this event. Obviously PlayStation will have a giant functioning gacha machine inspired by the upcoming Astrobot game as well. There's also going to be 40 units of Monster Hunter Wilds at the booth with some keychains and things like that. It looks like there's going to be a pretty big deal for the PlayStation 5 Pro as well as Death Stranding 2. And if you think about it, Death Stranding 1 was such a showpiece for the PS4, right? It was just honestly such a huge, great looking game. That Decima engine, absolutely fantastic. And so when you look at that, and when you look at this and you go, okay, well, how are things kind of happening. So, it's pretty interesting to see how that kind of works out. But Sony is in a really good spot right now. They've got a lot of momentum, not from themselves, but from Microsoft kind of getting into into their way. You know what I mean? So that is something that I think people are going to have to worry about a little bit. Is is Microsoft going to be able to rebound from this? Are they going to be able to kind of push things and get people kind of talking about Xbox in a positive way again? And I think that is going to be the real question, because Sony, like I said, it looks like they're going to have all the momentum. Microsoft looks like they really kind of cheaped out with their mid-gen refreshes, if you call it that. And it's really unfortunate in my opinion, because when you look at this and you go, Microsoft used to kind of lead in the hardware, but does it really matter at this particular point? Because if you think about it, Microsoft, they've had the most powerful console now for what, 7-8 years, something like that, and it's really done them pretty much next to no good. And the reason why I say that is because they have such a low install base that a lot of developers just completely forget about them, and unfortunately cater towards PlayStation, which that's not so unfortunate for PlayStation, because PlayStation gets all these amazing looking games and things like that. And again, I think also a lot of the things that happens with PlayStation, they really luck into, right, because of Xbox's fumbles. And one of the fumbles that we're seeing is stuff like Black Myth Wukong, which has sold 10 million units and apparently is like selling out, of making the PS5 sell out completely in like China and these other places. And that's really big for PlayStation. That's going to be huge for them. Like, I can remember years ago, a lot of us used to talk about Xbox One finally being available in China and how great this is going to be, and all this kind of stuff. And then it never ended up really pushing anything over there, which is significantly unfortunate. But again, we'll see how this kind of leads, but I do think that it does lead kind of credence that PlayStation doesn't really have to do much to impress people. I think that showing off Death Stranding 2 is going to be a huge deal for them, and I also think that we're going to see some pretty incredible things out of the PS5 Pro. Now, is this going to be something that honestly helps and like push a lot of these consoles? I'm not really sure, but again, I think that there's going to be an interesting kind of aspect going forward. And I still think that Sony has something up their sleeves. I mean, they obviously aren't going to be completely quiet forever. They do have a lot of talented developers, and at some point they're all going to get back on track. And I think that's going to be bad news for Xbox, because the things that Xbox had, looks like a lot of that stuff, if not all of it, is going to go to PlayStation anyway. So we really kind of live into this weird world where Microsoft is kind of screwing themselves over and kind of making their own console extremely irrelevant. And that's unfortunate, because a lot of people bought into that console with like hopes and aspirations of this thing just being a phenomenal success, and them pushing, like Microsoft was pushing the idea of hey, we've got all these great consoles, and we got all these great games, and all this kind of stuff. And I think that it ended up kind of not doing much for anybody, to be honest with you. So hopefully this is something that can change in the future. Anyway, I kind of hope that it does, and we'll see kind of what happens. Like, I want to see Microsoft do better, but you also have to see kind of understand where we're kind of coming from with this. If you're a fan of Xbox, you don't want to see this kind of stuff happen time and time again. So again, anything can happen in the future, but it does look like Sony has their first game that's going to be showcased is going to be Death Stranding 2, and it makes a lot of sense. Kojima always goes all out. Whether or not you like the first Death Stranding, I think that's a particular opinion, but it's no doubt that this thing is going to be pretty damn huge. And it's going to be hard for Microsoft to really kind of combat that, because they don't really have anything. I mean, what are they going to do? Hey, here's Indiana Jones, but it's going to look and run better certainly on the PS5 and PS5 Pro when it comes out. So Microsoft has kind of put themselves in a little bit of a bind, and I fully think that a lot of stuff that's getting delayed, like Towerborn, I believe that's getting delayed to get a PS5 version up as sort of a day one launch. I think we're going to see more and more day one launches on PlayStation 5, just like with Doom. And I don't think that's going to work out well for Microsoft. But what do you guys think? I will link this in the description. Are you excited to see Death Stranding 2 running on a PS5 Pro. This could be huge. This could be absolutely huge. Let me know what you think. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crap Gamer 'em up. We'll catch you next time. Crap Gamer out.